just to kick it off, as I touched on Monday, it's an exciting time. And I think our players did a really good job this week of being present day in and day out. It was something that we really challenged them with. We came in Monday morning for the team meeting. You could feel that everybody was a little giddy. They were excited. They knew it was game week. They wanted it to be game day on Monday. And the reality of it is we needed a good week of preparation. And we just challenged them to be present each day and to focus on what we were working on today. And I think that they did that all the way up and through practice this morning, really kind of focused on what they need to do. Ultimately, we're going to learn a lot about our team here on Saturday, of kind of who's in the right mental space, who's in the right physical space to perform. I think we have a pretty good understanding of some of the veterans, but I think there's a lot to be learned about for some of the new players that we're going to be counting on this season. So we're excited about it. We're excited for the season. I'm excited for our fans. I'm so excited for our students. I know we've sold a ton of student tickets for this ball game. And, I've been kind of banging this drum now for 3 years about making DKR one of the most hostile places to play in the country. And that starts with the energy that everybody provides from a fan perspective, from a student perspective, but also in our play. And if we can combine those two things, it should make for a difficult environment for us every Saturday. And that starts this Saturday at 2:30.
Thanks, Coach. Danny, go ahead and start us off.
Steve, is there a plan or a hope, I guess, to get playing time for a lot of the backups, including your two quarterbacks with Arch and Malik?
No, we're going to go play. We're going to play like we need to play. And, I think at a lot of the positions, we're going to roll a pretty fair amount of our two deep because we have to, from a weather standpoint. It's going to be in triple digits Saturday. No one knows exactly what the heat index will be on the field Saturday at 2:30, but I'd imagine, it's going to be up there pretty good. And so we're going to have to make sure that we've got a good rotation going at all the positions. Quinn's going to roll. Quinn's going to play. Hope he plays great. If an opportunity presents itself, we'll try to get those guys in, but more importantly, it's make sure we've got our rotation right at all the other positions and that we're executing and playing good football.
Jeff, go ahead.
Coach, you mentioned keeping an eye on who's in the right physical space, who's in the right mental space. Is there anything that happens in pregame warmups or maybe the first two drives of the game that will show you that they are in that right mental space?
Well, I think naturally, there's always that right balance of being focused, having the right mental intensity, but yet being loose and confident too, and I think that you're always trying to find that gauge, and every guy is a little bit different. I know I have an idea of what certain guys listen to, what music. I've certain idea of kind of the mannerisms of certain players. I have to learn the new players. And when I feel like a guy might be a little off, I try to get to him, and I try to get to him in a way that hopefully either calms them back down to where they can get refocused or cranks them up a little bit and gets them locked in, because it can go both ways, and I think there would be something wrong if we weren't a little bit anxious to go play Saturday. That's the idea of being a competitor. There should be some excitement. There should be a little bit of just nervousness, we don't want to be nervous, but you should have a little bit of excitement as the competitor inside of you, that the hair on your arms kind of starts to stand up a little bit when you come out of that tunnel and it's time to play. But I do think it's important that we're in the right mental space. And then, hey, as this game gets going, like I said, we want to execute, we want to do things at a high level. I'd love to be perfect. We're probably not going to be, but the idea that we can fix some of the issues as they present themselves, I think will benefit us not only Saturday, but in the long run.
Dennis, you're up.
Just a real quick one. Malik or Arch, did either of them separate? Did either of them earn that backup spot for this week?
We'll find out.
Okay. And that's what I thought. On defense, what gives you most optimism about this unit heading in?
Yeah. I mean, what I like about this unit is, one, the depth. I think we have really good depth on that side of the ball. When you look at our secondary and the amount of players that have experience in that secondary that have played at a high level, obviously we know the guys that are returning for us, the Ryan Watts, the Jahdae Barons, the Jaron Thompsons, obviously Gilbo got great experience last year, Terrence Brooks. But the influx of two other kind of veteran players in Jalen Catalon and Gavin Holmes, I think is helpful. And then there's an influx of some younger players that we're excited about. When you talk about, Manny Muhammad, Derek Williams, I'm excited to see what Austin Jordan can do. So, I think ultimately we got great depth. We got really good depth on the defensive front. That's the first part. I think the second part is, they really got after the football this training camp, and they, whether it was interceptions, whether it was forced fumbles, I thought there was a real intention by them to attack the football, which was something that we made a focal point for us as a staff. And then the players had to follow through with that, and they did. And I think a lot of that starts with Jalen Ford. He's got a knack for the football. He's got a knack for interceptions, forced fumbles, things of that nature. And then the other guys really started to follow suit. So I think the veteran players that we have, B, that kind of the influx of some of the youth that we have to add up to the depth that we have defensively, and then their ability to go after the football.
Thomas, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, do you guys release the depth chart? And if so, when? And what were some of the tougher calls as far as the guys rolling out with the first team?
Yeah, we have a depth chart. I'm sure you guys will have it by kickoff on Saturday. It's always difficult when there's an unknown, right? And so we try to do everything in practice to try to simulate as best we can what a game is like, but you never really know until it's an actual game. So we're going to monitor things. We're going to monitor things at the running back position. We're going to monitor some things, kind of in that secondary. What's the right mix of guys that are out there? And we're going to monitor some things at the receiver spot, of who's really going to be those next couple, three guys in after our frontline three. So there's things to monitor as we go. And again, it's to assume that a guy can't make a mistake and that he's written off forever. That's not what we're talking about, but it's the mindset going into it, the focus, the ability to do what you're asked to do your job consistently is something that we're looking for.
Joe Cook, go ahead.
You mentioned Monday about rotating Cole and DJ at that right guard spot. What does that look like? Is it like two series? How do you go about determining how that looks?
Well, I think for us, DJ's gonna go head out there first for us, and then we just have to monitor the whole thing at the line of scrimmage, because. Again, I'd love to tell you we were going to play in 75-degree weather in perfect conditions Saturday. It's not. It's going to be warm. And so we just have to monitor it. We could have, a total of 6 plays and 2 drives. We could have a total of 15, 18 plays and 2 drives. And that's going to dictate a little bit of kind of where we're at and when we need to start rotating our people.
Harry, you're up.
Coach, good afternoon. So can you take us into your world and into your mind? On Monday, you talked about having a different conversation with Quinn about the smallest of details. Can you share a little bit about some of the things that you talk about that fans would have no idea unless they were a quarterback?
Well, I mean, I think sometimes it's anticipating throws or how a play might play out predicated on the front and or the coverage, or a guy that, might be a third or fourth in the progression, but you can almost anticipate he's going to be the guy that's going to get open predicated on the coverage that we're getting. Things of that nature. Sometimes it's communication with the offensive line, some of the subtle reminders that he can give them to help them pre-snap and post-snap. That a year ago, I was sometimes a little hesitant to talk to him about because I didn't want to cloud his mind on the things that still need to be at the forefront of what he should be thinking about. But now, a year into it, his comfort level with what we're doing, I think he can manage, more information. I think he can manage helping those around him a little bit more to ultimately the execution of the offense and making sure that guys are performing at a high level.
Roger, you're up.
Sark, there's the oddity that JT Daniels is making his 3rd start here with 3 different teams, but bottom line, he's a veteran. He's been in a lot of different situations, and this won't rattle him. Is that kind of where you start with this Rice team?
Yeah, I think so. I touched on it Monday. This is a veteran team with a veteran coaching staff. Got a lot of respect for Coach Bloomgrim, his staff. Marcus Tuiasosopo worked for me, years ago. Pete Alomar, the special teams coordinator coming in from Stanford. Brian Smith, the defensive coordinator, has been there with him. So they got a veteran staff. They have a veteran team. Now they have a veteran quarterback who, quite frankly, I think this is a perfect fit for JT because knowing how they want to run plays at Rice and all of the audibling and things that they do at the line of scrimmage and trying to get into the best play, I think JT's a great fit for them. He can make all the throws, and then their style with the run game, the play action pass, I think really fits him. So I think it's a good marriage for JT, and it's a great get for Coach Bloomgrim and Rice, and creates a lot of challenges that way because they're not going to run a lot of bad plays schematically Saturday. So we're going to need to be sound.
Sam, go ahead.
Hey, Steve, I know you've talked ad nauseum this offseason about the depth that your roster has, and we'll probably see a lot of that on Saturday and the season. But I'm curious, with the staff that you guys have, the recruiting staff, personnel staff, Billy Glasscock and those guys, like how important have they been in helping you construct this roster to what it is now?
Well, they've been huge, I'd be remiss if Billy obviously has done a great job. I think Brandon Harris has done a fantastic job. I think John Michael Jones, Austin Shelton, Taylor Searles, that whole group over there, Kendall, that they really do a tremendous job. One, in evaluating players, two, in their job in when we're recruiting and getting people on campus. Three, the organization when our coaches are on the road recruiting or making phone calls and things of that nature. But to go back to Billy, I don't take it lightly, of the work that he did at NC State and building that roster with the amount of draft picks that they had at that time. And so when I was trying to find somebody to fit in that role, I wanted to find somebody that had done it before. When we knew we had to build this roster and construct it. Now I had an idea of what I wanted it to look like, but there's follow through to ideas. And I think Billy did a nice job with his team. I think our coaches did a nice job of evaluating the players as well. Not only physically, but I think mentally, that they've got the right competitive spirit in their style of play, that they have high football IQs. We like smart football players around here. We trust smart players with all the things that we do. So ultimately, I do think that our roster is highly competitive. They look the part. And now we got to make sure that we play the part, but we have the right people in place to go do that.
Chip, go ahead.
Steve, can you talk about what you've seen from Jahdae Barron, what he means to this secondary, and maybe how the communication has improved with the addition of a guy like Catalan?
Yeah, I think Jahdae, first of all, he is a really, really high football IQ. He just feels things very naturally as they happen on the fly. And then two, he's got a lot of confidence. And so when you combine those two, he trusts himself to try to go make plays. And ultimately he does. He makes a lot of plays for us. And whether it's in the run game, whether it's blitzing, whether it's in pass coverage, zone coverage, man coverage, but then also that communication, I do think is a huge component to that dialogue between he, Jaron Thompson, Jalen Catalan now, Michael Taff when he's in there, Keaton Crawford, Derek Williams, that combination of those guys is really important. But I also think one thing about Jahdae is really versatile. He can go play corner, he can play safety, he can play our star position. So inevitably his versatility allows him to do more, and puts us in a good position whenever we get in a bind where we have to move some people around.
Anwar, you're up.
Good morning, Coach. Good morning. Obviously, I know you're not going to really get into a lot of specifics of the depth chart, but you do have a lot of freshmen, Coach, that did stand out, especially in training camp. So I'm just kind of curious of that bunch, like a CJ Baxter. Did he do enough to kind of be a guy that comes out with the twos? And I'm kind of curious with Malik Muhammad, Anthony Hill, Derek Williams. Again, it's a lot of guys. Where do these guys fit in within your rotation, whether it's as backups or special teams players?
Well, I think all the guys you just mentioned are going to play Saturday, and that they'll be out there, relatively early in the ball game. So, and that's not to mention a Jonte Cook. That's Leonga Lafau, another guy who's kind of stood out that way. DeAndre Moore out there. So I think we've got a good group of guys that are going to contribute on offense and defense. And then if you're doing that, then surely they're going to contribute on special teams. And so, we put a lot of pride in special teams, and I think these guys are earning their opportunities. Trey Wisner has been a guy that has done a nice job on teams as well. But ultimately, we brought these guys here to play, and that they earn their time when it's time for them to play. And all of those that you mentioned, I think will contribute that way. And so I'm excited for them, and there's other guys that are working through the process of developing their game. I always reference back to the JT Sanders conversation from a couple of years ago when you guys all kept asking me, what's wrong with JT Sanders? Why doesn't he play, or why is he not on defense? He was in a developmental stage of his career. And now we're reaping the benefits of the development that JT put in. So all of these freshmen are at different stages, but it's a good class. It's a competitive class. It's a physically gifted class. And I think these are guys that are going to play a lot of football for us, not only this year, but for years to come. And then the other side of that is the new rule, the fact that we get to play these guys, especially early in the season, and then not have to burn a red shirt. We need to get them out there, and we need to let them play to see, what does it look like? Because some of these guys are going to play better than maybe they practiced. And there's going to be a couple of them, unfortunately, that might not play quite as good as the way that they practice, but at least we know, and then we know what to work on.
Got time for the last couple of questions in queue. Danny, start us off.
Steve, do you expect us to be able to read a lot into how the backfield touches go this weekend, or do you expect that to kind of take a while to shape up how you want to distribute that this season?
I think that's a good question. And it might be a little better one next Monday coming out of the game, because there's going to be some feel here on Saturday. I'm going to have to get a feel for just kind of how it looks, what it feels like, the way these guys are running, the way they're pass protecting, the way their knowledge base of the offense in game looks like, feels like. And so I'd love to tell you, hey, what happens Saturday is going to be how it goes. But I think there's going to be some moving parts to this thing, and some things that are going to have to adjust and shift as we move forward. So that might be a better question for after the game or on Monday, of kind of what it looked like and then what it might look like moving forward.
Last two, Justin, then Eric.
Coach, can you take me into what goes into some of the play calling this early into the season, and what's the scope of the playbook that you kind of look to unleash this early on?
I think one of the challenges with the first game is you don't know what they've been working on for the last 8 months, just like we've been working on things that, they've been working on things. And so what you try to do early in the first game, especially, is you try to run things that you feel like the players have a really good understanding of throughout training camp. And so that regardless of what front you might get, regardless of what blitz you might get, regardless of what coverage you might get, that the players can operate it and execute it. And then as you navigate your way through this first ball game or so, making those adjustments predicated off of what you're getting, what are they actually calling, how are they playing, and then where do we need to adjust? And so we're the playbook's in, we feel very confident about what we've installed. I think we have a good plan going into the game to put our players in a really good position to be successful, but quite frankly, we're going to have to make some adjustments Saturday once this ball gets kicked off, predicated on how Rice is trying to play us.
Last two, Eric, then Roger.
Good afternoon, Steve. I wonder if you could take us through Xavier's talked about his maturity throughout the offseason. Could you give us one or two examples of just how that has tangibly played a factor and is helping him well round himself as a receiver?
Yeah, I'm really proud of him. First of all, I know a lot has been made of Quinn's development this offseason, but I think almost right there with him is the kind of development and maturity of Xavier. He's had a great offseason. He's really worked his tail off. I think he got himself healthy coming out of last season with the hand. I think he really committed himself to the rapport with Quinn and vice versa. What I've noticed is I really see this guy enjoying being a Texas Longhorn, enjoying his teammates. I mean, he is smiling now more than maybe since his freshman year, and having fun at practice and working hard. coaching up the younger players. It's unique to see kind of his rapport with Jonte right now. I think he really feels like he's in his third year now. He can go help a younger player on how to do it. And he's playing at a high level. I'm very impressed with what he's done throughout training camp. And we talked the other day about what do you know? I think one of the knows is I know Xavier Worthy's going to show up at 2:30 Saturday. He's going to be there. He's going to play fast like he does. But I think that combination of his rapport with Quinn, I think the confidence that Xavier's playing with right now, the fun that he's having with his teammates, I think is going to allow him to play a brand of football that maybe we didn't see all the time last season.
Last one, Roger, you're up.
Sark, your walk of the field before the games, where does that put you in a headspace? What's that do for you?
It's like the walks we all go on, I mean, I always just have some music on. I try to take it all in, and I always refer to this to the players on Friday night when I talk to them. We put in a lot of time and effort into this. We work really hard. And, I know there's a lot of cool things that come with being a football coach, but we work a lot of hard work to get here. And so I don't ever want to miss the moment. I want to enjoy the opportunities that we have. And so that's part of that walk is, man, I get to be the head football coach at the University of Texas in DKR and seeing everybody the work that goes into this, whether it's the staff workers, our own staff, the game management people that are working the game, to see our students starting to file into the student section. I try to take all that in, and then I just try to get myself in the right frame of mind to stay focused, because when you have the job that I have, when you start talking about managing the game, motivating your players and calling the game, I need to have really good focus when I go into a ball game. So I try to get myself into that space. And like the players, not white knuckling. I try to be loose and confident, but I don't want to lose that edge. I want to stay definitely kind of focused on the task at hand.